And Cain was jealous against his brother Abel on account of this.
So here it is. Cain is jealous of his brother. Does he have a reason to be jealous? No, he doesn't. He has no reason to be jealous, no reason to be angry, none of that. So here it is. We're starting to see that there's a seed planted in Cain's heart for no reason. Christ said not to be angry at your brother for an unjust cause. He's unjustly jealous at his brother because he decided to bring an inferior offering to the Most High, whereas he saw that his brother Abel had brought his best, and he saw that the Most High was pleased with what his brother brought, and so when the Most High was displeased with what he brought, he decides to get jealous with his brother. Go ahead.
And he sought a pretext to slay him.
So Cain becomes jealous of his brother because he decided to offer an inferior fruit that was not accepted. So the seed of hate is planted. Now with the seed of jealousy being planted, it brings forth a desire to kill. So we're going to watch how this plays out and why Christ said what he said as far as hating our brother. Because here it is, that seed is planted. Now let's see what happens from there. Go ahead.
Verse 17. And then sometime after, Cain and Abel, his brother, went one day into the field to do their work. And they were both in the field, Cain tilling and plowing his ground, and Abel feeding his flock.
Mm-hmm.
And the flock passed that part which Cain had plowed in the ground, and it sorely grieved Cain on this account.
So here it is, Cain and Abel, they out doing their work. And Cain, as I said earlier, he was a farmer. So Cain's out there tilling and plowing his ground. And here it is, Abel's feeding his flock. Well, the flock passes by some land that Cain had already plowed. And so Cain gets up, looks at this as a reason to be upset with his brother. He's sorely grieved, Jasher says. Go ahead.
Verse 18. And Cain approached his brother Abel in anger.
So here it is. We just read that he was already jealous of his brother. So he's just looking for a reason to jump. And here it is. A simple reason. Because his brother's cattle had tread across his plowed land. Go ahead.
And he said unto him, What is there between me and thee, that thou comest to dwell and bring thy flock to feed in my land?
And even more than anything, he's not even mentioning the fact that, the flock had had walked through his land that had been plowed. He's asking, why you bringing them over here to eat? What is it what you got against me that you would be bringing your flock over here to eat on my land? Go ahead.
Okay, verse 19. And Abel answered his brother Cain and said unto him, What is there between me and thee, that thou should eat the flesh of my flock and clothe thyself with their wool?
And so he replies, he's like, okay, you asking what do I have against you? And he's saying, what do you have against me? Whereas you don't have a problem eating the flesh of my flock and being clothed from the back of my flock. So why you accusing me of something when this is a relationship of reciprocity? As I come on your land to feed my flock, I also let you enjoy the fruit of my flock. So, what's the problem here? What it's coming down to is Cain is looking for a reason to stir up strife. He's looking for a reason to execute what had been planted in his heart. And now it's come that the fruit is starting to present itself. Because that seed, it get down in your heart, and it gets nourished by you sitting and thought like, man, if my brother wouldn't have brought such a good offering, then the Most High would have been all right with his offering, and then he'd have been all right with my inferior offering too. It's his fault. It's not my fault that the Most High wasn't happy with what I brought. So here it is. He's sitting, you get something in your heart against somebody, You haven't come to them. You haven't done anything like that. So you sitting to yourself with your thoughts, and you just ruminating on it, which will allow you to go anywhere with it because there's nobody there to say, "Nah, brother, that's not what happened. That wasn't my intent." You just sitting there in your thoughts, and it allow you to say you can put anything off on that other brother, and it builds you up to the point to where that seed starts producing fruit out of your heart. And now here he is. He been sitting with this seed in him, and now he has an opportunity to where he's boiling and he's ready to strike. And speaking of strife, because that's what Cain is trying to stir up here with his brother. Let's look at Proverbs chapter 10. Proverbs 10 and 12.
Proverbs chapter 10, verse 12. Hatred stirreth up strife, but love covereth all sin.
But love covereth all. Hatred stirreth up strife, but love covereth all. So, when you dealing in these fashions, if you're able to show grace and mercy towards somebody, that's when it says love covereth all. You showing love is going to keep you from showing hatred and moving to the point of murder. If you loving somebody, you're not going to sin. So love covereth all. All right, continue with in the book of Jasher, verse 19.
Jasher chapter 1, verse 19. And Abel answered his brother Cain, and said unto him, What is there between me and thee, that thou shalt eat the flesh of my flock, and clothe thyself with their wool? Verse 20. And now therefore put off the wool of my sheep, with which thou hast clothed thyself, and recompense me for the fruit and flesh which thou hast eaten.
So here we see that evidently Abel wasn't charging his brother. All right, you got beef with me for coming over here to feed my flock. I tell you what, since it's such a big deal, give me back the clothes you got on, and pay me for the food you've been eating from my flock. So it's obvious here that they had a mutual respect that, this is my craft, so I'll give of my fruit and you give of yours. That's a community. That's brotherhood. That's love. And here it is now, Cain done got this seed in his heart. He's ready to stir something up. He's ready to stir strife. And so Abel's like, all right, if it's such a big deal, just pay me back for what I've given you and we'll be good. Go ahead.
And when thou shalt have done this, I will then go from thy land as thou hast said. Verse 21. And Cain said to his brother Abel, Surely, if I slay thee this day, who will require thy blood from me?
Now, how did we get to this? They having a spat. They having a brotherly spat. And I'm sure Abel is probably assuming that this is just another quarrel between brothers. Me being having an older brother, I know how those can be. You quarrel with your brother and it could be a serious argument and even could get to a physical confrontation, but within minutes it's done. Come on, man, let's go play some ball. And so I'm sure that aspect of our life hasn't changed that much since back then. I'm sure it was the same way. And so here it is, Abel probably, he's probably saying, all right, give me back my clothes and pay me for my meat. But he probably isn't even meaning it. They just upset. So it's just to him, it's just a quarrel between brothers. But here it is. Cain's like, all right, well, if I decide to kill you, who's going to have something to say about it? So it went from them having a quarrel or an argument between brothers, which I'm sure they had before, where they just ironed it out and let it be. Well, today it goes from that argument to Cain saying, well, what if I kill you? Could you imagine your flesh and blood brother saying that to you over something like this? Over you wearing his shirt, going in his closet, borrowing his shoes without asking? Or, something minuscule like that, and he'd be like, well, what if I kill you right now? Ain't nobody here to see it.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Verse 22. And Abel answered Cain, saying, surely the Most High, who has made us in the earth, he will avenge my cause,
Mm-hmm.
and he will require thy blood from thee, shouldest thou slay me. For the Most High is the judge and the arbiter, and it is he who will requite man according to his evil.
So here it is. It's saying that the Most High is the judge.
Mm-hmm.
So when you saw Christ saying, you may be subject to judgment for hating your brother, here it is. Here in Jasher, it's going right back to it.
Mm-hmm.
So as we flipping from Leviticus to Matthews, from Matthews to Jasher, from Jasher back to Matthews, we going from the Old and New Testament dealing with the same law.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't changed. Judgment is required for your sins.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
And the wicked man.
But let me clarify before we move on.
Mm-hmm.
Because Christ came, we have grace.
Mm-hmm.
We have grace to get it right before we have to stand before judgment. Mm-hmm. So that's what's important to understand about the new covenant versus the old covenant. Mm-hmm. Okay, go ahead.
And the wicked man, according to the wickedness that he may do upon earth. Verse 23. And now, if thou shouldest slay me here, surely the Most High knoweth thy secret view.
There's nothing that you can do that the Most High doesn't see. When you do the research and you get into and you study it, there's an angel that follows you around wherever you go, recording what you're doing. He just, sitting there right now. He's sitting there looking at us. Mm-hmm. Right now they're having Bible study talking about the importance of the brother. And that's going to be recorded forever. Mm-hmm. And then they report back to the Most High. This is what happened today. Or, he may be reporting, today Cain was feeling a certain way toward his brother. He's mad at his brother because you didn't accept his offering. Mm-hmm. Same thing with us. As we go day to day, well, Brother Dante, he got upset about whatever and, decided to come out his mouth some other kind of way. It's recorded. Everything we say, everything we do is recorded. Mm-hmm. Nothing goes unseen or unnoticed. Go ahead.
And will judge thee for the evil which thou didst declare to do unto me this day. Verse 24. And when Cain heard the words which Abel his brother had spoken, behold, the anger of Cain was kindled against his brother Abel for declaring this thing.
So he mad because his brother is speaking the word. Just like we see nowadays, you go and you tell somebody the truth as the Most High declares it, and people get mad at you, like you wrote the scriptures. Hey, I'm just letting you know what thus says the Lord. And here it is, and a perfect example. Mm-hmm. Cain is angry at Abel for what? He had no reason to be angry at him. He should have been angry at himself for not offering the Most High his best fruit. Mm-hmm. So this is why Christ said what he said in Matthew 5:22. Mm-hmm. Because now we're starting to see from the point of him getting upset from his inferior offering, we're starting to see continually this seed is blossoming. And it's reaching to the point to where it's about to bring forth fruit. Go ahead.
Verse 25. And Cain hastened and rose up and took the iron part of his plowing instrument, with which he suddenly smote his brother, and he slew him. And Cain split the blood of his brother Abel upon the earth, and the blood of Abel streamed upon the earth before the flock.
So here it is. An unjust anger toward a brother ended in murder. So if it didn't make sense before, now it makes all the sense in the world for why Christ said what he said. Mm-hmm. He said not to be angry, because in this passage in Matthew, Christ is showing why the law was important. The law would say not to do physical things, not to kill, not to steal, not to bear false witness, not to covet. You know, and it would tell you these outward things that you shouldn't be doing. But Christ is saying, while you're not doing these outward things, it's more important that you're changing your inner man. That's why in Jeremiah 31 and in Hebrews 8, it speaks of the new covenant and the law being written upon our hearts. It was supposed to be written upon our hearts from the very beginning. But because we had started to stray, God said, here, let me write this down, Moses. Take this to the people. This is the law. So it was always meant for us to keep it internally. It's good not to outwardly do these things, but if inside you're not killing somebody, but you got hate towards somebody, eventually that hate inside of you is going to play out some way. Rather you kill somebody or you set it up to have somebody else do it, or you manipulate some kind of other way to where you just hating on this person. Doesn't have anything positive to say. You're not being in love. That's why the word says love covers a multitude of sins, because if you don't allow that hate to sit in you to where it moves you to do those things that are against the Most High, and you showing grace and mercy and love, then you're not going to step into those transgressions. So let's go to 1 John chapter 2. I don't know why this thing keep popping up on my screen. 1 John chapter 2 verse 9.
Okay.